Just doing a little bit more work on the 78 Cutlass Calais T-top.
I suppose you have some games.
Hey guys, welcome back to Classic G-Body Garage. The brake light is no longer on, and the seatbelt buzzer and light finally turns off. Got a lot going on here on the 78 Cutlass Calais T-top. What happened was the brake system had an issue with it, and the brake light was on in the gauge cluster. Once I got this gauge cluster fixed, I went through this entire gauge cluster. I'll post a link to that on how to fix these problem-prone Cutlass gauge clusters for 78 to 80. Also, the brake pedal was going to the floor. So I figured this thing had something wrong with the brake system, obviously, just because of those two issues, but I went ahead and pulled the drums off, which I'll show you in a minute, and everything was dry behind there. I thought maybe a wheel cylinder had blown, had a leaky line somewhere. Master cylinder had a problem with it. Master cylinder is all nice and dry. Calipers were good. And also when I pulled the drums off, both sides looked as nice and dry as this one. Now there's a little bit of moisture right there, but that's because I was in here messing around, and I went ahead and just bled the entire brake system just because it had air in it. And the reason for that is, I'll show you. When I was messing around each wheel trying to figure things out, I did discover that at some point in time it had new front brake hoses put on it. And the reason why I knew that is because, well, this seems awfully nice and shiny and clean. There isn't any cracks on it like these older G-bodies get. The hoses crack. And then also, this clip right here, this retainer clip that holds the hose to this bracket, was missing. So the hose was just flopping around. And also, this fitting right here on the brake line was all messed up because they probably used vice grips or something like that to remove it. So what my guess was is they went ahead and replaced both of the brake hoses, had the system opened, never even bothered to bleed it, put it all back together, and then it had air in the system. So since I couldn't find any leaks anywhere, I pulled the line back off of it, fixed the hose because it was twisted around, put a retainer clip on it, so that is fixed because that is unsafe with that line just flopping around there. Like I said, I couldn't find any other leaks at all on this thing, and I went through and bled all four wheels multiple times over. The brake light is off on the dashboard, and the brake pedal is nice and firm. So the brakes are good on this car. Also went ahead and put about half a tube of grease in the front end. I don't know when the last time the front end was greased on this thing, but went ahead and greased all the ball joints and tie rod ends and all the steering linkage up front. So that's all set to go. Got to change the oil next. But I wanted to show you something here on the brakes. Something that you might find on your G-body is this odd looking piece right here. And where this is usually located is it is wrapped around the rear wheel cylinder on the back side of the wheel cylinder. And the reason for that, I'll go around there in a minute on the back side and show you, but the reason for that is because back in the day when they built these G-bodies, they had a problem, especially with the cars up north in the Northeast and maybe the Midwest with all the salt and everything. Well, these wheel cylinders are held in with a clip. They are not bolted on like most vehicles. They're actually held on with the retainer clip, and what happens is one of two things. The retainer clip rusts out, the wheel cylinder becomes loose in there, or the backing plate itself will rust out and the wheel cylinder will become loose, and what will happen is this wheel cylinder will then twist, and then the pistons will blow out of it, and then you lose your brake pedals. So what GM did back in the day was had all the dealerships put one of these strange looking clamps on the wheel cylinder, and what this did was it wrapped around the wheel cylinder, and then this flared end rested on the axle tube itself, so it could not twist at all. And what happened was, the reason why I took this off, well, both sides were hanging on the brake line, just like that, flopping around. So someone popped them off, or they fell off, and both sides were just flopping around, and it takes a special reverse Torx head socket to you know, loosen and tighten these things, basically so you couldn't screw with them, and I don't have the proper tool for that. These wheel cylinders are nice and solid in here, probably because they just kind of rusted themselves into place, I guess. But this car is a clean Southern car, so I don't think it's going to have an issue with any rot. It may have some surface rust holding it in there, but it doesn't have any rot, anything like that. You can see how clean everything is back in here. So that is what goes on. I don't know if I can slide this thing back over. You can kind of see how it went. I'm not going to put it on, but basically you get the idea. There you go. There's the wheel cylinder right there. And that clamp went inside that wheel cylinder, wrapped around that wheel cylinder, and then rested on the axle tube just like that. Like so. That is from the driver's side. So that's how it went back in the day. So if you find one of these odd looking clamps on your G-Body, this clamp was not a factory option. This was a dealer add-on. Well, I guess it sort of was a factory thing because the factory mandated the dealers to put them on. But there you go. That's enough about that strange looking bracket. But another reason why the car is up in the air is because I got another set of tires for it. And I'll show you guys what it looks like once the tires are on. Here's a quick shot of one of the old tires, and you can see what type of condition that these things were in. Extremely dry rotted, and I'm surprised I was even driving up and down the street on these things. Alright, it's back on its feet with some new shoes. I threw a little paint on the brake drums, so nice and satin black back there. And you can see the tires have some good traction. These are some tires that I had sitting around for a couple of years, and this car got them. Perfect use for these tires. So there you guys go. Oh, and if you're wondering why it has a tarp on the roof, well, that's because, yeah, like most any old G-Body with T-tops, the T-tops leak. So I don't want the interior getting all wet since I put the carpet in it and everything like that, and since I don't have a garage just yet, I want to make sure that the interior stays nice and dry. So threw a couple tarps on there, but there you guys go. Gonna wash this thing up on the next nice day, put the trim rings on, the center caps on, change the oil, and get this thing up for sale. All right, guys, keep those comments coming. Keep on hitting that subscribe button for you new viewers. And until the next classic G-Body garage video, keep those G-Bodies rolling.